أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم قل رب زدني علما أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون صدق الله مولانا العظيم. So continuing with the commentary of the ayats concerning the month of Ramadan. So we talked about the purpose of the institution of fasting and that it's wajib and that its main objective is to train us in the discipline of taqwa, how to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's orders and how to abstain from his prohibitions, and this requires discipline. So the objective, the overall umbrella objective of this month is to teach us discipline, connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, get control of our lower desires, and get connection with the higher objectives. So we've also talked about the concession for those who are sick and for those who are in travel. And the next salient issue which is mentioned here in these ayats is the institution of fidya. And so fidya, or the ransom for those who select not to fast, and as we mentioned that was abrogated thereafter, so a little detail in that. So basically, when Nabi ﷺ came to Medina Munawwara, so the fasting of the month of Ramadan had not yet been enjoined upon the Ummah. So actually by the time, this is also very significant, that during the Meccan period, the only, main point of Sharia which was actually, revealed and became compulsory was Salat. After proper Aqidah, 13 years of learning Iman, Aqidah, Tawheed, and the qualities in Imani Sifat, those characteristics of Iman, that was 13 years of, of teaching and training from Rasulullah through the medium of the Holy Quran and the verses being revealed in that context. And then in the end of the Meccan period, so only Salat was actually the only point of Sharia. So the very foundation of belief and connection with Allah through Salat, that was what was established in Makkah. Now in Medina, the details of Sharia, one after another, and in their order of difficulty as well, as we're going to see, inshallah. So when Nabi ﷺ got to Medina Munawwara, so fasting had not been enjoined as it is today, other than being a virtue, and it was obviously something that was practiced by the former ummats, and so it was known to the Arabs, and it was known to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And so when the Nabi alayhi salatu came to Medina Munawwara, his practice would be fasting 3 days a month, and also the fasting of the Ashur, the 10th of Muharram. And perhaps there's a difference in the ulama. Was it actually wajib or something which is highly, emphasized by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Perhaps it was actually the fast which was, compulsory in the beginning. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually ordered people to fast on the 10th of Muharram. And there's a whole narrative and many hadith that talk about that. So that was the situation in the beginning. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, ordered the fasting of the entirety of the month of Ramadan. And in the beginning, since it was a new institution, and obviously it is the habit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that what we call a tashrib al-tadrij. So incrementally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bring these commandments, to fore, and bring these commandments into implementation. just like the prohibition of alcohol. It didn't come one time, it came in detail, and we'll talk about that in detail when those ayats come. So similarly in fasting, since it was something new, and for 30 days to fast, it was something, you know, it might have been a bit of a difficulty, or seeming to be a bit of a difficulty. So initially there was the option for those who opted not to fast to pay the fidya, to ransom, for the days that they didn't fast. Now, once fasting became, it became the norm and people got used to it, so then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abrogated that. So it's better for you to fast if you could understand, and then ultimately, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. And after that, the next ayat, which is going to come in the next module of these ayats. So here we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again states that who witnesses the month, he should fast, and there is no condition, otherwise. So from that, it is the consensus of the ummah, and it is the practice of the Sahaba, and it is an ijma, you can say, that after that, after the sending of that ayat, فَلْيَصُمْ, now it becomes compulsory on everyone who is eligible, or who is, applicable, who is, baligh, and who is muqim, and who is sahih, who is reached maturity, who is in his place of residence, he's not in travel, and he's also sahih, and he's also not in some type of sickness which would otherwise give him the license to break his fast. So otherwise, they must fast. Okay, now, suppose if someone is very old and sick and they cannot fast, period. Not only that, but it's unlikely that they would ever reach a point in their life where they would be able to make up those fasts. Because as we said earlier, if you are sick or you're in journey, then you will have to make these fasts up. You can do it consecutively, you can break it up, days during the month, but it should be done before the coming of the next Ramadan. As for those people who are very elderly and sick, and it's not, expected that they would ever come to a situation that they'd be able to make up those fasts. So for them, that ayat remains intact, fidya, the ransom will remain intact for them, and they can go on paying those fidyas for the fast that they miss. Okay. So the second stage in Medina Munawwara was the institution of fasting being made obligatory. And it's also interesting that initially, when the fasting was obligatory, it was obligatory up until it was obligatory up to the time of iftar as we know it now. However, once you have gone to sleep, that's the end. Now you're going to have to remain in fast. So it was a bit more difficult initially at that point. And so what would happen is that once you went to sleep, now there was no suhoor, and there was no chance of eating. And what happened was that there was a sahabi, and they used to work, the muhajirin were busy in the market, the ansar were busy in their farms. And so one of the sahabis, he was busy in his farming. He came back, at the time of Maghrib, and he asked his wife, do we have anything for my iftar to break our fast? And she said, no. Now just imagine this. If any of us, during, the end of the day, we come home and say, okay, it's Ramadan, time for iftar. Okay, where's the iftar? Sorry, we don't have anything. I mean, we would blow up, right? That poor woman, that would be the end. Now look at Sahaba, how their lifestyle, She said, no, we don't have anything. So in other words, they were not worried about their food. We make Ramadan the month of eating. It's supposed to be the month of fasting. So not only we fast in the day, but let's, put, eating in its place. That's what we're supposed to learn in Ramadan. We eat to live. We don't live to eat. So Ramadan, if anything, it should be the month where we minimalize, not only during the times, but what we eat and how much we eat. So anyway, so there was no food. So she said, okay, let me go and see if I can find some. Maybe I'll go to the neighbor. What? So by the time she came back and actually found something, he had gone off to sleep. Okay. Oh, so she said, yeah, khaybatan lak. You're going to sleep, and now you're not going to be able to eat, and you're not going to be able to eat also after that. So the next day, without eating anything, he again went to his farm, and he just passed out, actually. He fell unconscious. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sent down, the the injunction, which we're going to read in the next ayats, that it's okay throughout the day, that you can eat and drink up until the time of, Fajr, to the beginning of Fajr. Okay, so those are the three stages. First of all, 3 days a month, Ashura, then Ramadan, but up until the time that you sleep, and then ultimately in the way that we have it now, that we can eat and fulfill our marital desires up until the time of Fajr. Okay, last point is, okay, how much is this fidya? So suppose we have to break our fast, how much is this fidya for those who can actually do that? So it's basically around, it's actually, originally the fidya was grain, and the grain of Medina Munawwara was basically barley. And then wheat came later on. So it's either one saw, which is about 3.6 pounds. Okay. So 3.6 pounds of wheat or barley, or as it said in the Hanafi point of view, that wheat was actually worth double what barley, so half of a saw of wheat. So in any case, so that's going to amount to actually the qima. So either you can give one saw, about 3.6 pounds of grain or other things that have been mentioned, that people used to use as their staple diet. So you could give that in its actual form, or you could probably more, effectively and probably more appropriately give its qima. In other words, its value, its monetary value, which would probably be more suitable for people in this day and time. So one fidya for each fast, and that would go to one, miskin, a person who qualifies, to be in need. So perhaps since the time, and I see everybody's getting a bit nervous, so we'll talk about these details a little bit more tomorrow, and what is left from this ayats, and then go on to the next. Inshallah ta'ala, will be a tawfiq. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Yeah. These days, like